Mr. Priyavrata Mafatlal, who is the vice chairman of the Arvind Mafatlal Group, which is more than 100 years old. What does it mean to steward such a company?
So, for one, it's an immense responsibility and it's a privilege. Just maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, I just noticed my shoes were kept next to my father's, and a thought struck me that, wait, I couldn't possibly wear his shoes because they're much larger than mine. I'm going to trip and fall. But he can't wear mine as well because he's going to find that uncomfortable. And the moment I said that out loud, it felt like it was a monkey off my back because I said I don't have to wear anyone else's shoes. I can basically learn from their journeys, but I will basically make my own mistakes and I will create my own path with my shoes. In a sense, I was thrown into a situation I wasn't prepared for. So my only choice was to get a coach to help me navigate this new environment I was kind of pushed into. There will always be someone smarter than me in the room. There'll always be someone probably louder than me in the room. There'll probably be someone more technically sound than me in the room. But I made a promise to myself that I will always be the one that will have the most amount of guts in the room.
Hello everyone, my name is Unnath Kyal. I'm currently a student of PGP MFAB class of 2026 here at ISB. With me, I have Mr. Priyavrata Mafatlal, who is the vice chairman of the Arvind Mafatlal Group, as well as the director of NOSIL Limited, which is the largest manufacturer of specialty rubber chemicals in India. Not only is Mr. Priyavrata a fifth generation entrepreneur, but also an alumnus of the Harvard Business School. And now he's poised to take the Arvind Mafatlal Group to the next level. We are very grateful to have you, sir, and looking forward for this conversation.
Thank you, Unnath, for having me, and I'm grateful to be here.
So starting off, I would like to know a little bit of a background about you. In a lot of interviews, you have mentioned that from a very young age, you would go to your textile factory, be involved with the engineers, etc. How has that shaped you today? And what value did it play when you were building up your business acumen?
So, in a family business, we typically don't realize that our learning starts from when we're in the diapers. Right? And that was the same case for me because you're hearing conversations over dinner tables, you're seeing situations unfold. And, my grandfather, my father, they'd just say that, we're going to the factory, why don't you come along? We're going to the office. So, it was just a fun thing. None of us really thought much about it. It was just one of those things that, it's an outing. And then slowly, once I reached, my school got over and I reached college, and then you're going for a 2-week internship kind of a thing, right? That's when you actually start learning about the business, how businesses operate. But every summer, we try and spend a couple of weeks, at different aspects of the group businesses, and slowly, that's how the learning actually shaped up. Because when you look back, you're like, oh, this comes to me a little more naturally than it would have typically come to others, because it's all kind of it's very subtle in a sense.
So that's something I completely resonate with, especially your line of that you learn family business when you are in diapers.
Yeah.
Coming from the same mindset,
Yeah.
a very similar family, so completely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
What does it mean to steward such a company, and how does it affect your day-to-day decision making?
So for one, it's an immense responsibility and it's a privilege, because it's a responsibility because you realize that you're only, if you do this well, you're only remembered as number 5 in a long lineage, right? It's also a privilege because you have an opportunity to touch thousands and thousands of livelihoods on a day-to-day basis. And I think the other thing is, it's taken 120 years to build an asset which is intangible called goodwill, and it could take me 120 seconds to take it down, right? So I think that there was a point it started getting to me, because you'd have people from the outside say such big shoes to fill in, not only on the work front but on the philanthropy front, right? Because both my grandfather and father are very large personalities in that sense. So yes, there was a point where I will be honest that it started kind of weighing me down, and at that point I didn't realize it was weighing me down. Right? It's only in hindsight I can tell you that. And it was I've said this story as well. It was just maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. We were I just noticed my shoes were kept next to my father's, and a thought struck me that wait, I couldn't possibly wear his shoes because they're much larger than mine. I'm going to trip and fall. But he can't wear mine as well because he's going to find that uncomfortable. And the moment I said that out loud, it felt like it was a monkey off my back, because I said I don't have to wear anyone else's shoes. I can basically learn from their journeys, but I will basically make my own mistakes and I will create my own path with my shoes.
Amazing insight, sir. I must say that shows that you're a fifth generation entrepreneur.
Yeah, thank.
So you're talking about business cycles, and you are much more experienced than I am. So you very well know that how every business has its ups and downs. So in 1982, there was this big textile strike in India. How did that affect your business? And how did it particularly affect the family that was involved in the business?
So I mean, obviously these are stories I've heard because this was all way before my time. But I think at that time the textile industry was thriving. Uh, and Mumbai, if I'm not mistaken, the city of Mumbai alone had about 60, 65 mills, textile mills. And when the Datta Saman strike happened in 82, I think he got together about 250,000 workers. So it suddenly overnight it crippled the entire industry. We were obviously one of them. For us as a company, that actually we struggled to really recover from that jolt. And then that mixed with liberalization, mixed with immense competition that suddenly came in, uh, mixed with, obviously I'm sure there would have been decisions that we as family members or as management took that were wrong. And that caused us to actually go into file for Chapter 11, what we used to call BIFR. Today, I think its equivalent is NCLT, but that time it was BIFR, which is basically officially a sick company. But the good thing is the resilience showed that, after 10 years also, you managed to come out of that. And I don't know, I mean, if there are too many other textile companies that have actually come out of BIFR, sold assets, but that showed the goodwill that was created, that you wanted to be fair with everyone. Um, but I think everything happens for a reason. And what's emerged today is, because we've seen such high highs and such low lows, it teaches us to be a lot more balanced when we see business cycles come, and not get too carried away when the highs are too high and the lows are low. Learn to ride the waves. So I think there was a lot of learning in that, and I'm inheriting those learnings and I'm creating my own. Yeah.
So another shift came during the COVID years,
Yeah.
specifically the year of 2020. So from what I saw, that a lot of leaders had to let go of the deeper beliefs or intuitions that they had during those years, because COVID was a life changing moment for every human being in the planet. So, what were some of those beliefs that you had to let go in order to come out of COVID, as well as make it a leveraging point for your business?
So I think to answer that, I'll have to give you a little more context. 17th of December 2018, I was announced as CEO of the textile company. And I was 30, 32. I was given 15 hours heads up that I will become a CEO of a 100-year-old company. And within a year, COVID hit, right? So I was just about getting, understanding business, I was just about understanding my role. I got myself a coach because, I had to navigate these very complex situations, which I didn't have too many people I could lean on. When COVID hit, for the first time in a century, uh, we just had time, right? And that's when we sat down and we used to have hours and hours of, online meetings. So when we started questioning everything for relevance, we said, is it relevant? Yes or no, right? If it's relevant, we keep it. If it's not relevant, can we make it relevant? Yes or no. If we can't, ditch it, right? So what emerged out of when we came out of COVID was a lot more sharper, leaner, nimble organization, which allowed us to now operate, um, and grow at 30 to 50% every year because we've kind of cut all the flab that was probably holding us back for a decade or 2 decades just before that.
So, as you were answering this, there was this one line that you said that you hired a coach.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that it was a business coach that you hired,
Executive coach. Yeah.
executive coach.
Yeah.
So, and in today's generation or the new India that we keep on speaking about, there is a rise in executive coaching and personal coaching, or let's say coaching at certain levels for different corporate executives or different family members. So, do you think it played such a big impact in your life that you would recommend it to other people? And at what level would you recommend a person to go for coaching, and why should they go for it?
See, for me, in a sense, I was thrown into a situation I wasn't prepared for. When I look back, I was prepared for it because, I was probably born to do this, as dramatic as that sounds. But at that point, I couldn't go to my mentors because they're not really in my situation. Right? So they wouldn't actually get the nuances of my situation. I couldn't go to my team for everything, even though they were senior, because somewhere they'd expect me to have some answers, if not all. I can't go to my father because the board wanted fresh thoughts, fresh ideas. And if I went to my father, who was my chairman, I would only start, my comfort would be to mimic what he was doing. And I would just basically become a puppet in his hands. And that's what the board didn't want. Right. So my only choice was to get a coach to help me navigate this new environment I was kind of pushed into. Suddenly there was no safety net. Um, so for me, I spent a year with my coach, and I think it helped me immensely because, as most good coaches do, they don't take a lot of the credit. They put it back on the individual who's gotten coached, but they ask the right questions. They gave the right perspective. In their words, they hold a mirror up to us to kind of for us to figure out our journeys. But you need someone to hold that mirror, and you need someone to help you, ask those questions which make you think. Because there's always people who are smarter than us, who look at things from different lens, who it's arrogance if we think we know it all. So,
Right.
so I think that help is always welcome.
So, what it seems like your leadership style evolved over the years as you went on from one stage in your career to another stage and yet to another stage. So, as it evolved, so what are the key differences did you see? Did you see yourself as a different leader in every stage, or there was a difference in how you would lead the people you were working with?
So that night when I was told that I will be CEO the next day, I obviously had, I at first I thought it was a joke. I just flown back from the US. I was jet lagged, so I thought, is it a dream? Then I laughed because I thought, this is God's way to, like, it's a funny joke that why me? Like, am I the one who's going to bring 100-year-old legacy to the ground? Like, I mean, I don't know I've not led a team of one, right? Um, and then I'm very grateful that I have a fantastic support system in my wife. And, I spent that evening talking to her, and she put some context. And that's when I decided the next day I had two choices. I could walk into the room with the same fear that I had the night before, and that would probably that would be the starting of my tenure, fear, and that's how I'd create my legacy. Or I go in saying that my life actually just my job just got easier because now all I have to do is make sure people around me are happy. Why will they be happy when they are motivated? Why are they motivated? Then they have, their vision is set, there's clarity, good working standards, you treat them well. But eventually there will always be someone smarter than me in the room. There'll always be someone probably louder than me in the room. There'll probably be someone more technically sound than me in the room. But I made a promise to myself that I will always be the one that will have the most amount of guts in the room because I can control that. The other thing I promised is I bring something to the table no one else brings. And that is an understanding of the value system that I inherited from my forefathers. So my style has always been that I take risks. Um, there's my first town hall, I gave an analogy um, saying that, guys, I don't want to be the Indian cricket team of the 70s under Sunil Gavaskar that went to Australia, played a five test series, um, lost four and drew one, and came back and everyone applauded saying we drew one, right? We want to be Virat Kohli's India that goes, beats them 2-1, and you get questioned, why did you lose that one? Because not wanting to lose is not the same as wanting to win. So playing out for a draw is not the same as going for a win. So that's the only thing, and I told them, and I've tried to keep that close to me ever since. So my leadership hasn't changed as much as I have just gotten a lot more mature with decisions that I've had to take. Team members don't enjoy having unpredictable managers, so try and be as predictable. Um, when you're right, I will applaud you, I'll hug you. When you're wrong, I will criticize you and help you move from there. But I want to be as transparent and predictable and as I can, and I've tried to do that for ever since.
Moving on,
Yeah.
you've spoken to, and this is purely an assumption, that you've spoken to many family business owners across different industries and have shared some good conversations with them. So, what is that one common myth that you do not think is a myth about family businesses in general?
We all think that our problem is individual to us, and it's not, because when I was at Harvard, I spent enough time with people from all around the world. Some were first generation, some were third generation. In my class, there was no one beyond third. I was the only one, but uh, everyone's problems are the same. Just the nature of the problem, the packaging of the problem is different. The language or the cultural aspect is different. But at the end of the day, I have to still navigate my problems as per my situation. You have to do yours, but it's heartening to know that we're not alone in this.
So, as a young member of the family business who's just had 2.5 years of experience, and most of the people watching this podcast will come from a similar background, what's the one advice that you would give us to do immediately so that it can help our business as well as our careers?
Um, it might be more than one advice. One is the older generation is not redundant, right? Um, they have immense experience, so be patient. So it's a fine balance between ensuring that we don't disregard the older generation, saying that I'm from an Ivy League school, I'm smart, I want to come and change the processes. No. That man or woman has built this business probably, or they have scaled it. They know the nuts and bolts of the business. That is invaluable, right? As much as it may feel that we are smart, we've figured it out. Um, Experience is intangible. It can't be taught. It can be only seen. What we learn from them, but um, there is something we bring to the table, and we have to be confident about that. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail. We should applaud failure because we can learn from that. Right? So yeah, I think just finding that balance between wanting to learn from the older generation and not wanting to push them out, saying I've got everything figured out. but also not saying that, oh, he's doing everything or she's doing everything and I can just sit back and relax because I bring something to the table as well. So I think just finding um, that balance.
Thank you for such great insights.
Thank you.
The audience and I personally learned a lot from this entire session.
I'm grateful. Thank you.
So, moving on, this is the last rapid fire round that we will be having, where I'll throw some words at you and you can just answer it using two words or less.
Oh my.
Okay. So, we'll start. A habit that you value,
Uh, Punctuality.
a habit that you dropped,
I haven't dropped. I'm in the process of dropping. Um, is not. It's longer than two words, but it's not acknowledging the fact that sleep is the new currency.
Thank you for being with us here today, sir. Today, we learned about family business, entrepreneurship, legacy, and how a fifth generation entrepreneur from India thinks. Thank you for joining us today.